optimizing their business in terms of getting more bang for their buck, which they've already invested in. So that's our session. We'll try and complete this in 30 minutes. We have one panelist, Priyank, who's on a flight. Flight got delayed due to the rains, so he's not here. So we'll try and cover up for him. What I'll do is I'll just go quick a round of introduction. I'll start with myself, and then we'll have my co-panelists speak about what they are or what their company represents. So I am Rahul Singh, the president for NRAI, the elect president for this year. And I run this chain called the Beer Cafe. We are in 11 cities, going to 16, 40 outlets right now. We'll cross the 15 mark before this fiscal ends. The business of beer is what drives us to live, and that's the four-letter word that we use the entire day. We think beer is something which brings people together, and the cafe format is the right experiential ground for having that. So that's my business. Move to Kabir from here.
Hi. I am the founder of a company called Azure Hospitality. We have multiple brands in our umbrella at different price points. Mama Goto is one of them. Dhaba is the other. More recently, we've opened 2 new brands, one being Foxtrot, which is a gastro pub. And Sly Granny is another brand of ours. And then we also have 2 brands in the QSR segments. One is called Rolmal and the other is called Speedy Chow. So in total, we currently operate about 42 restaurants across 7 cities of India. And we'll be opening another 10 before March of this year. So we'll be around the 50 to 52 mark. So that's what we are.
Hello, everybody. I am Sharad Batra. We have opened a brand called Cafe Delhi Heights. We are currently in 3 cities, Delhi NCR, Mumbai, and Pune. We are primarily a cafe which is catering to all 3 generations, probably multi-cuisine. And we go by a motto of casual and a comfort food format, so that the people can enjoy the ambience, which is very comfortable, and no sweat zone where you actually can walk in as you want to and spend as much as time you want to prefer to spend that at place without any we do not force people to have something to be there. I mean, you can use that place as your office, as your drawing room, as your meeting places. So this is what our motto is, and we are expanding more in multiple cities now, hoping to open 4 more within this coming month and going forward. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Varun Tuli. I run a few small brands. One of them is Yum Yum Cha, Noshi for delivery, and Food Inc. is our catering brand. We started many years ago with a lifestyle restaurant, and we basically decided to nurture a few brands and kind of take them across different cities. Currently, we are in Delhi NCR only, but we are looking at expanding in other metros soon.
Hi, my name is Thomas. I run a small little Malayali place in Saket called Mabeli. We are fairly newcomers to the industry. We've been running this restaurant for about 3 years now, and we've got one restaurant in Delhi and a delivery kitchen in Gurgaon. We hope to enter Gurgaon at the end of this financial year, and then Noida thereafter.
Okay, so the panel is, the session is called Cashing on Business Diners, and as far as I recall, the business diner is always looking for value for money. So there could be some misconceptions that we have. When I look at a business diner, the fine dine person will look at a business diner as somebody who's going to pay a lot. When I look at a business diner, I feel that there are a bunch of people who come in and they want, low on value, or let's say low priced beer, and they want to just have snacks and go away. So I think each and every format that you have here would have a different realm for how they identify their business diner, and can they cash on to the business diner. Now, fortunately, the panelists that is there on the stage right now, we all have business diners as part of our consumers. having said that, if you look at Mahabeli, he's in DLF Saket, which is a very big hub for corporate lunch goers, and also, after work. You have Yum Yum Cha, you already know. They're in Saket as well as in Cyber Hub. Cafe Delhi Heights is in every part of Delhi, and they're also in Cyber Hub and also in Aerocity next door, which is a very big business hub. And the same thing with Mama Goto and Sly Granny now in Khan Market and Dhaba. They're in almost every corporate hub, even including Cyber Hub. And the same with us. We're like in every neighborhood, wherever we believe in the corporate diner in a very large way. So each of us have, let's say, some experience on what this corporate diner or this business diner is about. And I think that's a pretty important segment. And RAI actually takes out a report every 3 years. The last report was in 16, and we have a new report coming up in 19. It's a pretty comprehensive report. It's quoted at the parliament. It's the only report which is actually looked at by every influencer or any decision maker in terms of where to get the data from. And in that, there are some, I'll share some data, and then we'll move on to having our panelists actually speak about the questions I'm going to put to them. So it's still single digit, from the point of eating out profiles. At the moment, the corporate diner or the business diner is about 9% of the consumer segment that's going out. The largest being family. People go out to eat out as family. 56% is family. Then is followed by friends, which is 31%. So there can be an overlap between a corporate diner and a 31% with a friend. It's 9% what we call is corporate dining or with colleagues. And then there's 4%, which is, alone, which thankfully is only 4% right now. How do people go out? There's a lot of people who actually go out and do business meetings. It's very popular in hotels. We already know that in the hotels, a lot of people actually dine for business. That is the reason that 21% of all the fine dining restaurant business is coming out of the corporate or the business meeting diner. It could be lunch or dinner. Another fun fact, or let's say a fact which is there, is that this particular diner, or let's say this particular segment, is actually eating out between 12:30 and 3:30 p.m., which means it's a big lunch crowd. And, we all think that they would be dining out, but I think the way the social fabric today exists, that a lot of people want to go home and they want to go out with their families when it's late in the evening, or they're going out with friends. But when it comes with a colleague, unless it's a birthday party or some special occasion, they want to do a post-work drink. That's another part. But most of the people are actually doing this during lunch hours. There are two members of NRAI who are very popular with lunching hours. One is Barbecue Nation. I was told that most of the Barbecue Nations are full with lunch goers. And there was another brand that was mentioned that time. Mainland China has become a very large, lunching crowd. So we'll start with lunch. That's how we'll start this panel. So I'll start with Varun, who's the lunch king among us, at least. Yum Yum Chai, if you've all not eaten, you probably know that it's a place you'll never get a seat on. He's one person who never allows you to get a reservation, even if you go through him, and he doesn't give a discount. So how does the lunch goer, tickle you? Or how do you tickle him?
I think that basically, we are in a very different type of position because, as Rahul said, we don't do any discounting, we don't have any reservations. So I think a primary, point behind a lunch or a corporate lunch for that matter is speed. I think people want to get in and out very, very fast. But, we've increasingly seen that people want to get out of only a QSR format into something which has some form of service, right? You can sit down, you can actually talk to your colleagues, you can have a team meeting, you can have a little bit of a social. So we are in a casual dining, restaurant format. Some would call us, premium casual dining. Some would call us just regular casual dining. And I think what we have basically focused on getting people in and out as soon as possible. We don't do alcohol in any of our restaurants. So I think that's why, when people want to dine with us, they prefer lunch. We also kind of took a conscious call with lunch because we felt that if you kind of break even by lunch, I think your rent is taken care of, your salaries are taken care of, your fixed costs are kind of taken care of. So, without, figuring this out too much, I think speed was what we thought would be the primary motivator for a lunch crowd to kind of come in, get in and out in 30 minutes. It's very possible with our brand. And as far as waiting is concerned, there is some waiting at times, but because the speed is so quick, people can they don't have to wait too much.
So the takeaway is no liquor, because you believe that the
Right.
lunch goer is not
No,
very...
I think no liquor. Liquor slows down your.
It does,
turns,
yeah, because if you have a place which is going to run on... So how many churns would you do in a lunch?
we would do about 3 turns in a lunch.
That's
Yeah.
almost like QSR would do
Yeah.
in a lunchtime.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So it's speed which matters.
Yeah.
So people are there for speed. They want to just...
They just want to do in and out very fast.
Sure.
What also ends up happening is that I think lunch for a lot of people is 12 o'clock. Lunch for a lot of people is 4 o'clock. So I think that lunch time, we've been able to capture like a larger kind of lunch time. And sometimes, you don't plan a lunch when you're in an office. You just get out because you can get out. Places like Cyber Hub, for example, I think a lot of what Cyber Hub does is runs on lunch, early dinners, team outings, etc. So I think, as long as you know that, you can go to our restaurant, even at 4 o'clock, once you've just finished your board meeting or team meeting or whatever it is, have a quick meal and then kind of run back to office. That confidence that you will be able to come back to office is very, very important. Obviously, the food needs to be light. I think that is part of, light, healthy, fresh. That's all part of it. But I think speed is essentially what kind of drives us here.
So you're on that spectrum where you don't have to do reservations, and you're thankfully a brand which does not even discount and doesn't need to, because and it's expensive to actually eat out at Yum Yum Cha. It's not easy in a pocket. But so now, Thomas, how does it work with you, where you need to now fight with a kind of a bunch of people who are trying to go after that lunch wallet, and you're sitting in a corporate place and you need to get them on? So do you think, because I think that's my belief, that the corporate player is always looking for real value. He's looking at easy on his pocket, as long as he's not billing it to the company. If he's paying from his own pocket, then he's probably looking at really, trying to squeeze the last out of his wallet. So how do you think discounts and promotions and deals are extremely important, or you can, not have to do that?
So when we started out, sustainability was the first goal. The idea was to reach that blessed line where you don't have to put any more money to keep the business running. So what we realized, any business model, I would assume, assumes that your weekends, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is full. That's how you build your revenue model. We just happened to be in a place which was surrounded by a lot of corporates. There were a lot of law firms around. So the question was, how do you tap into that? Because if you can successfully do that, you're saying that your tables can be full during weekdays, especially during lunch, which is a dream for any restaurant. This is one of the classical problems that most restaurants have, that on weekdays for lunch, they just can't fill the place up. My experience so far is that a business diner is fundamentally, if he's paying out of his own pocket, he's fundamentally looking for two things. Like Varun rightly pointed out, number one is speed, because time is very, very valuable. You don't want to be dilly-dallying around figuring out what is it that you want to eat. Two is information, decision fatigue. If you give them a 100-item menu, they're going to say, boss, I'm done. I don't want to. So what we did was we created custom combination menus.
TDS menus and stuff.
Exactly. So these are only available Monday to Friday from 12 o'clock to 3:30. So when it comes in, it'll say you have standard combinations. So the choice is very simple. It's sitting right on the table. It's priced anywhere between 200 to 350, depending on what you pick.
Gotcha.
So you're breaking down a lot of choices to maybe 4 or 5 fundamental things that they have to pick. And this also encourages daily diners. For example, there are people who don't like carrying that tiffin to work, or they want to try out something different every day, or they want to have a casual space where they can viably have lunch, where I'm not spending a bomb on lunch every day. So that's the kind of market that we're trying to tap into. So we do this through, like I said, this combination menu.
Do you think deals are important? Deals
Sorry?
are important?
Sorry?
You think deals are important? Does that attract the consumer?
I want to say no, but yes.
It does.
It does, because the word discount just attracts a lot more people.
Sure.
You could say, look, but I'm also cheaper to you. They don't really care. If you gave them a 1,000 rupee bill and said, look, I've discounted 30%, versus here is a bill for 700, the first one like just takes more precedence. So in terms of, to answer that better, so what we've done is we're slowly starting, so what we do is we created a list of all the companies that were around us. We directly engage with their HR department to kind of say that, look, if you come here, we have...
So again, you're giving a privilege or a deal to them so that they can...
In the sense that, A, like, look, this is a viable option for you in the first place. And now we've started like a loyalty program where you can, after post-dining, you link it up to your mobile number. It gives you points.
Sure.
Effectively about in the range of 10 to 15%, depending on
kind of thing, yeah.
And you can use your mobile number to kind of redeem those points at the same location. So what you're doing is that you're trying to bring them back, and effectively you're getting them come back and spend more.
Sure.
And you also get like avenues to market to them through these mobile numbers.
Okay. So one of the places which is kind of 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. or so Cafe Delhi Heights, we all know that it's got people every time of the day, through the day and through the night. So it's a unique product which actually caters to, I think, almost every diaspora out there. And I've seen this in other parts of the world that you have a lunch menu and you have a dinner menu. And it couldn't be just with limited number of SKUs or limited number of items on the menu. It's also differentially priced. A lot of people want to sell less amount of goodies during the lunch light product, but they also price it less due to probably... Do you do any of those tricks of the trade, or do you basically just believe that this is my set menu, because you have the largest menu I've ever seen in my life. It runs into pages, like you can cater to anything, it seems. How does that affect your corporate diner or corporate lunch goer, I would say?
Honestly, I mean, actually, we became corporate heaven organically without even planning about it. We had thought about, we wanted to be a multi-cuisine cafe. Catering from the need from breakfast to mid-hour lunches and small bites, ranging from even bread pakoras to Singaporean laksa and everything. So incidentally, we became more of a corporate place, and that's why we are present in a couple of corporate main hubs, which is one is AeroCity and Cyber Hub and Connaught Place also. One major advantage we enjoy is being a multi-cuisine, because when you are catering to a bigger, larger groups, you obviously have people with different preferences. So this is the driving factor we were able to attain, and eventually we realized it very soon, and that is why I started incorporating bigger tables to those specific locations which are actually catering to more of corporate people. And as you rightly said, because we have very small bite menus, pocket-friendly menus also, and we keep on adding the seasonal menu to our offerings, so that they can come and choose when the time of year we are coming in. Like for monsoon, we added chai pakoras. Come on, you cannot take pakoras out of Delhi. Very well. Everybody knows that. I mean, the people who are visiting the odd hour to the restaurant for their meeting or their get-togethers, they would prefer to do that. And luckily, we organically started catering to these kind of people.
So before I'll pose my question to Kabir, I'll talk about something which I think none of them are solving, or let's say they're not offering because they're always full, thankfully. So in our case, we do have a lot of downtime because beer is a product which tends to be had after 5 p.m. and trying to make people drink beer at 11 a.m. It's not happening yet. But people want to drink a little later. It's closer to your post-work, and it's also sometimes also in the weekends where everybody's enjoying themselves with their family and friends. But we wanted to actually kind of use that space that we have. Each and every outlet that's there already has seats. It's got air conditioning working. You have less staff in the daytime, but they're still there. You're paying for rents. You're paying for the license. You're paying for everything. And so on a weekend it's okay, but what do you do with weekdays? So co-working is a big one, and I think one of the pioneers of co-working space, at least in the bar industry, has been done by Social. And we all know that Social created an experience where you could actually work through the day and then party in the same place. Or you could actually, treat your friends out there while even working. So it kind of really, really opened up a new space. We do have co-working as a very large segment of the business today with people like WeWork and, CoWorks and all these people who have come up in corporate hubs. But I think the whole F&B trying to do co-working is something which is very unique. I would like to share my experience that we opened that up, not for every place, but a limited number of outlets, which we find have issues with filling up space, let's say, or not utilizing the seats that we have, and we opened it up to third-party people. We did it with somebody called Office first, and we did it with 2 other partners. And we do get people out there. So anybody who's got a cafe format, which is not pure lunch and dinner, if it's pure lunch and dinner and you're catering to those turns, and if you're lucky enough to do 3 turns like Varun does, then it's good to go. But if you have cafes and formats which are not really optimizing their space in terms of utilizing the seats, you should try and do this co-working. It's no money from your side. It's just free Wi-Fi. They'll probably take a 200, 300 rupee coupon to use free tea and coffee. But you might see people, and the business of our restaurant industry has always been, when you see people, you tend to go there. So even today's lunch, when we saw 20 people, I think 200 people jumped in. So it's basically, we all love to see people when we eat. And that's something that you can do. So it really helps us. It has benefited our business. In certain locations, it's done very well for us because those locations were not doing well during the daytime on weekdays. And we've kind of been able to fill it because there are a lot of people out there who are working alone, who are freelancing or doing pro bono work, or they're basically just, they don't have an office. And this gives them the space to do. If you look at Cafe Coffee Day or even Starbucks for that matter, there's been forever a place for people to hang out and meet. Most of the meetings have happened in Starbucks. I think a lot of the business plans have been made in Starbucks worldwide. So I think if that is what it is, you can do that. So as any restaurateurs who feel they have a daytime operation and they're not shutting down for the break between lunch and dinner, you can do that. Co-working is also the business, or let's say the business diner as such. I won't call him a diner, but he's at least using a space. And while he's using the space, the chances he could actually end up eating something. Or if somebody comes to meet with him, he could probably offer him something. So it's all a gravitational shift towards making him consume, and that's something that we could all do. Now, from a cuisine point of view, Kabir has 2 very popular brands. One's an Indian brand called Dhaba by Claridge's, and the other one is called Mama Goto, which is Oriental. What I've been told is that there's only 2 cuisines which really move the country. So either you eat Indian or you eat Oriental, and that's the way you actually shift around between the 2. And you obviously have other cuisines followed suit, but these are 2 very large cuisines that we end up eating out. The Oriental could be Indian Chinese or Punjabi Chinese and all. That's a debate. But I'm just saying from a point that the 2 very and he's been able to have the same wall in many places that I've seen between a Mama Goto and a Dhaba. So the first question is, because he knows his numbers and, this is a panel for us to take this out from him. What do you think is selling more during lunch hours? Is it Dhaba or is it Mama Goto in terms of sales? That's the first question.
So typically Indian food is heavy for lunch. Okay. However, sales depend quite a lot on location. Ironically, Cyber Hub Dhaba is always packed for lunch. And I think the reason for that is because you have a lot of expats visiting, a lot of offices, a lot of clientele that is non-Indian. You have a mix of, entertaining them, giving them a meal in an Indian restaurant. So to answer your question in general, if I were to look at it from a pan-India standpoint, Asian food typically is got more traction for lunch. However, it's very location specific. If you're in a mall, it's different. If you're in a food hub or a corporate area, it's different. And if you're a standalone, it's different.
Got you. Okay. So, sorry, that's Asian. I was calling it Oriental for some reason. My fault.
Same thing.
Okay. So now you have this corporate diner or corporate lunch goer, person who's dining out, let's say. What are the challenges you face with this particular sector? Because you're definitely catering to that particular person. So you have a family person. You can make out it's a family guy. He's got this whole family coming. You also know there are people who are, friends who are coming together. But like you said, there is a huge amount of impetus coming in from this corporate lunch goer. What are your challenges? Do they spend a lot of time? Do they take off your turns, or do they spoil your place? Is there any challenges that you feel?
No, so the corporate world and the corporate dine is a different animal in the sense, like Varun rightfully said, speed is a very important element when it comes to corporate dining. Choice is another very important element, which obviously we can see through Delhi Heights. So if you're able to service the speed element, if you're able to give choice. Now, if you're one cuisine establishment, you need to be able to give enough choice within your cuisine, because the Indian diner is always looking for choice. And the third most important thing, at least we see, again, it's very specific to location, but what we see is a corporate diner normally is looking for a certain price. When they're spending on their corporate card, they're entertaining, or it's a team lunch, price is less looked at. But when it's two friends sitting and they're paying out of their pocket, price does matter. So it's a combination of three very important things: price, speed, and choice.
Gotcha. So there is a business to be had. That's the common thread I think we have. We're all trying to optimize. In your case, you're doing a lot of turns. Given a choice, when you have this corporate diner, or let's say corporate lunch goer, who comes in over the weekdays, how would you kind of bring that person with his family? Because one of the things I've seen in restaurants are, if I go with a colleague and I have a great experience, it's my kind of, like what I call that stickiness, or I want to show that peer, which peer could be my friends and my family, where I want to go to that restaurant and actually show them off and then feel good about it. How do you get that person back, do you think? One is, the pull is organic, he's going to do it himself. But is there any program that you have which brings him back? Like a corporate card or a discount? I know you don't do discount, sorry, but yeah.
So I'll actually counter that by saying that before we had Yum Yum Cha, we also had Yum Yum Tree.
Yum Yum Tree.
Tree, right. So Yum Yum Tree was our first restaurant. It was not in a corporate hub. There were some offices, but it wasn't the greatest corporate hub. And we used to typically have pretty empty lunches. And our lunches would not get full. And we needed to bring people in for lunch. So in fact, at that restaurant, we started looking at deals and offers and an unlimited, an all-you-can-eat lunch, but something that would be served on a conveyor belt, that people would always have it ready. So there we found that speed was more important than price, right? But I think eventually one of the biggest things with getting somebody back, a corporate person back, we did do the cards. We were fortunate enough that our restaurants are small; they got full automatically. But I think the cards are extremely important. I think somebody who comes in with a corporate account gets points, but can maybe use those points to bring the family back at night.
Got you.
That's actually a very important
win-win. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you get miles on corporate travel, but you may use that for a family vacation.
Correct.
It's the same thing. I mean, you're not misusing anything. You're not. But by taking your team out to a particular restaurant, if you know that you're going to get some benefit of that at night,
I think that's
you may actually want to bring your family only
that.
there.
You should leverage
of
course. You should definitely leverage that. Like you said, I think the analogy with miles is perfect. It just works perfectly, because that's what we all do. We travel on business, but we will use it for a family. Across the world, usually, let's say just talk about Asia, and you've seen that people are eating out really heavily during lunch hours, like crazy. You go to any place, it's packed. There's no place. We have the same for dinner, let's say, in India, because maybe that's how we incline. But we, I think, have a big challenge, which I don't see otherwise, is that we also have a delivery model, which we are also, catering to ourselves. And then there are these black kitchens and people making biryani for 99 rupees, and I don't know how they do that. But all this is also spoiling the show, because we're paying crazy rentals as restaurateurs. We got this whole, the investments done. And now you have this guy who's been awfully funded by somebody in Japan and US, and it's like the Uber effect, the cabs are struggling because of Ubers coming. So you have, these aggregators which are actually spoiling our party in our own way by giving, I've seen everything at 100 rupees today for lunch. Now, if I'm a regular corporate goer, if I get everything for 99 rupees, and I can eat on my table, which I don't allow anybody to eat on their tables. In our office, it's like, you have to go out and eat, or you eat in the cafeteria. You can't eat on the table. But people do eat on the tables, and they get 99 rupees lunch. How will they come to Yum Yum Cha? Like, doesn't it affect our business? Shouldn't we blackmailed or blacklisted or whatever you want to do?
So I think restaurants in India are still, as your metrics clearly said as well, that it is an outing. A lunch is an outing. A lunch is an event. Or a dinner is an event. So I'm actually going to dial back a second. And you spoke about outside India, people are eating out more and more for lunch, right?
Every day, like nobody's carrying.
If you go to the US, for example, and I saw this phenomenon for the first time this year, I've seen restaurants which close at 9 p.m. or which close at 7 p.m., which are only open during lunch. And similarly,
Only daytime restaurants.
only daytime restaurants, and similarly, the fine dining or better restaurants open at 5:30.
Only for supper, yeah.
Yeah, so like 5:30 p.m. restaurants are like tons and tons of restaurants are only 5:30, and some restaurants are only, they run on single
Do they pay
shifts.
half rent?
Yeah. No, single shift. Labor is like 40%. In the US, labor is very expensive. It's like 40% of your revenue. So you open a single shift. It's not necessarily only, you may do 3 seatings or 4 seatings during dinner, or 4 seatings during lunch. So what happens is, I think they're two completely different markets. I think a Domino's can sell a pizza for 29 rupees also, right? But
Yes.
but you may still order in at full price, because at one point food is also addictive, right? You want to eat that flavor. So you may actually only use that deal 30% of the time. You might not use it 100. There are people who misuse it, but I think that if you see an overall, if you're addicted to a pizza, for example, from Domino's, you'll want to eat that at night as well, right? You're not going to see it differently because it's for $400. It's just that mentally you feel that you get discount when you're at lunch. So I think that's also a bait and switch kind of. I don't see people misusing it too much. That's my take on it.
Okay. Anything that you want to add, Sharad? Because you got a timer saying we have to wrap it up and do a questionnaire
We
Q&A.
do have a product called Noshi, which is our
Yeah, I
delivery
know
product,
Noshi.
which is actually cheaper than Yum Yum Cha, which offers exactly the same product at a cheaper price.
The most expensive packing I've ever seen.
Sure, but it's also cheaper. Like you said, it may be expensive, but it's also
not
20% cheaper than what we do at Yum Yum Cha. It's the same product, but people will eat that, but they'll still come to Yum Yum Cha later.
Got you.
I think.
I would use the word less price than cheaper.
I just want to build on the question you asked about return factor. Something that we've focused on at the restaurant that we run is to build relationships with your regulars. And just mathematically, these corporate guys are going to clock more hours at your table than most of your otherwise regular customers would. So when they come back to you, they're also, we encourage our servers to remember names, what their preferences are. So that means that when they come back with their family, it's always like, oh, hello, sir, what's happening?
That matters a lot.
So there's
People love
social
that.
capital also that's coming into it. So because that little area is their fiefdom.
Got you.
When you think about it. So the more number of people you can engage on that level, they're definitely going to bring back their family because they know that they're, treated a certain
They've
way
already got that experience.
as
Why not
royalty,
do it?
basically.
Okay.
So that's right.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, as Kabir and Varun been mentioning about the speed, our restaurant actually works totally opposite to that. For us, the corporate diners, the fight is not getting the corporate diners in. We are more actually struggling internally than externally. So internally, when I say it means like we want our servers to understand that when the corporate diners are coming in, and there are a lot of people who want to spend more time at the restaurant, so we need to be patient with them. We do not need to switch covers more oftenly because we're not looking at a short-term return. We are looking at a long-term customer.
Okay.
So that customer is going to come back to us more oftenly when we are not pushing them to vacate the seat so that we can change the cover. This is what our motto is. This is how we want to sell our product. And this is what kind of environment we want to create. That's why we offer free bread baskets. We offer free Wi-Fi. Yeah, most of the time people just eat the bread basket water.
I've done that too.
Yeah,
many times. The butter especially.
The butter, yeah, it's very addictive.
Very addictive.
It's showing on you actually.
Yeah, it is showing on me.
So we actually are still struggling to make our servers understand that kind of breed who wants to spend more time. Yes, they want to spend more time.
Okay, guys, I think we'll just wrap it up here. Anybody has a Q&A or anything that you want to ask the panel here? If not, then you go and get some cigars. Mr. Banga. Nice to see you here. There's one more behind you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Dinar and I'm from Jaipur. I want your take on vegetarian food industry in India. Yep.
So vegetarian is a very important element of dining out. I think most of us are always struggling to make vegetarian food taste better. There is definitely a demand, and each pocket of India has a different demand. it depends on the depth of the market and then obviously the taste buds of each market. Because, India in totality is many different countries within one country. What is liked in Mumbai is different to what is in Delhi, vice versa. So when it comes to vegetarian, you have to hedge your menu. What is the right percentage on the menu is a good question. I guess each brand and each cuisine will have a different percentage depending on what percent of revenue is coming from food and what percent of revenue is coming from soft beverage or what percent is coming from alcohol. But if I were to look at it, we try, at least through our brands, to have a 50-50 balance on veg and non-veg. So that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important question, as he has mentioned, that vegetarian food is really, really catching up very fast in India as compared to earlier times. For example, we have 70% of vegetarian sales in our couple of locations. Like in Noida, we have 70% of location specific. But as I said earlier, I mean, in fact, when we moved to Mumbai, we added Jan food there because this is what the market demands. So it's a very important and integral part of our menu, at least, yes, and I believe so is for every other restaurant.
So I do some, I do a wedding business as well where I do some catering, and what I've seen is about 70 to 75% of our events are vegetarian only. And when we go to people's houses and we meet the parents of, the bride or the groom, we're always told that, or we notice that the parents sometimes don't go out. There are so many families, they don't go out. And when you ask them why they haven't gone out, why they haven't come to our restaurant, then their answer is sometimes, क्योंकि आप non-veg serve करते हो. So a lot of people consider non-vegetarian as a separate cuisine, a separate direction. A vegetarian person may not trust a kitchen in which non-vegetarian and vegetarian is together. I just closed a deal with somebody where, we're doing a wedding in an international hotel, and the entire non-vegetarian stock is being moved out of the hotel. The entire hotel has to convert to vegetarian. And people like, Burma have shown us that, a slightly higher end vegetarian concept can actually work. And I would think that market is a phenomenal market. I think that is a market that needs to be picked up because I would assume more than 50% of India is vegetarian. I don't know what the official statistics on that are, but I would assume about more than 50% are vegetarian. And sometimes it is also because of economic levels, and they've not been able to traditionally afford non-vegetarian. So those communities and those areas have traditionally become vegetarian because there is no meat in those areas.
Guys, we won't be able to take another question because we just realized we have a meeting at 7 somewhere. 4 of us are there in that meeting. And it's a 1 hour to Gurgaon right now. So I'm good. Anything offline, please text us or send an email or WhatsApp, and you probably get numbers. Or join NRI is the best thing. You'll join NRI and you learn, you get all the answers. So we're going to leave the stage now because we really have to rush out. Thank you so much.
Please give it up for our eminent speakers. Thank you so much for keeping our audience awake and alive till the end. And now I request session moderator, Mr. Rahul Singh, to please present mementos to his co-panelists, starting with Mr. Kabir Suri. Please give it up for Mr. Kabir Suri, Delhi Chapter Head, NRAI, and co-founder, Director, Azure Hospitality. Thank you so much. Mr. Priyank Sukhija, Mr. Varun Tuli, Managing Committee Member, NRAI, and Managing Director, Yum Yum Cha. Thank you so much. Can we all please give it up for Mr. Varun Tuli, Mr. Sharad Batra,